Welcome to part 4 of Kinetic's 1/48 scale Pucara build, and in this video we're going to be looking at getting some camouflage colours on the model. As you can see, it's sat there now and it's primed. All the joints have been made good. There's no real build flaws or issues to be taken care of, and it's just a matter of getting the airframe in camo. So for this build we're going to be doing an Argentinian Falklands machine, and as you can see it's in a rather attractive camouflage scheme of light blue undersides and a disruptive pale brown green top sides. So having a quick online search and having a look at cross references for colours and searching Google etc, I came across the fact that Hataka Orange Line actually have a set dedicated to the Pucara. So these are C136, C137 and C138. Now as far as I'm aware, PM Models up in Doncaster are the only UK stockists of the single bottles, so they were ordered. However, when they arrived I'm thinking they were a bit too dark for the box artwork and general reference photos of the type. Unfortunately I can't show those because of copyright issues, but if you Google Pucara it comes up with plenty of photos. However, saying that, they do look to be quite a good match for the machine that the RAF were flight trialling in 82 and 83 and did actually take part in a couple of air shows. So having a bit of a think and a bit of a look on the internet and having a look at some builds that other modelers were doing, came across a build that had been completed in record time, I think 7 days he claimed, and they used some colours that look quite nice, so I replicated those from the MRP range. So it was RLM 78, MRP 067, RAF Sky, MRP 118 and MRP 394 Radome Tan, and these were ordered from HM Hobbies and they arrived in super fast time, so thank you to Merrick for that. So having never sprayed an Argentinian aircraft camouflage before, it's always nice to get a feel for what the paint seam's going to look like before you commit it to the model. So in this case I just hit the spray bay, quickly just picked up a fuselage from an Airfix Skyhawk as it is, and painted the 3 colours on each side. So this is the Hataka one. Quite a good match for what the RAF were flying in, as I mentioned before, but I think too dark for the box art and the one provided in the kit. And this is the MRP one, which I think looks more in keeping with the box top artwork. So after doing some research, it would appear that the lighter camo scheme was applied prior to the aircraft's deployment to the Falklands, and the darker scheme was applied in theatre, usually by ground crews at forward operating bases. So having a look at the kit's painting guide, unfortunately it's printed in black and white, but this actually does help us with the camouflage pattern because it's more contrast between the 2 colours, so we can actually see the pattern on the airframe. So the kit colour callouts refer to MIG paints, and they're 30-450, 34-524, 25-450 being the blue, sand and tan colour. So after doing a bit of research and some help from some friends, we came back with good matches pretty much. 34-554 for the pale green, which is very similar if not identical to RAF Sky. 35278, which unfortunately I can't find an off-the-shelf mix for, and 34-450, which is the blue, which is quite a common colour. So I resprayed the Hataka side of the fuselage and set about trying to replicate what I think looks to be a reasonable example of that early war camo scheme. So we added, funny enough, 1 drop of the Hataka brown to the colour cup with the MRP Radome Tan to just change the hue of the sand a little bit, and then that's RAF Sky, the MRP RAF Sky on the nose. So what I'll do is I'll reprime the other half of the fuselage, and we'll have a trial run at that for real to see what it looks like subsequently when we've completed the whole camouflage scheme. So while we were messing about with the actual camo scheme, I've painted the undersurface with the MRP RLM 78. This is its basic application, so it will need breaking up and weathering. So that'll be the next step there, before applying the gloss coat and protecting it by masking in preparation for the camouflage colours once I've worked those out. So we're going to be looking at getting the camo onto the Pucara now. So the first thing I've done is enlarged the paint guide out the kit to match the scale of the aircraft, and we're going to use this to make paper templates for the camouflage pattern. And I've also made some notes on the instruction sheet to aid myself as I go through, so that the darker stripes on the kit instruction sheet is actually the sand, or the tan colour. So we're going to set about doing that. So first thing we're going to do is cut out our templates. This is quite straightforward. So we're just going to do this wingtip one, and we're just going to follow the lines round with a Swan Morton blade, just as close and as smooth as we can. And then we're going to do the other tan section, which is here, and we're going to actually use the green area as our template. So I'm just following where that goes. So sometimes it's a little bit difficult, you just need to take a step back. That's covered by the yellow identification stripe on the wing as well. And then we're just going to remove this area. And then we're going to overlay it onto our model. It actually goes that way, doesn't it? So there's the flaps. So we can line that up like so, and we're just checking to make sure everything's in the correct orientation. Or what you can do is lay the other section of the mask onto the wing and do it that way. It's easier to work with the smaller pieces though. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use 2 tiny pieces of blue tack on the mask. And this is just to hold it in place. Using landmarks and panel lines. So we know that this section here is that part of the wing. So we can just press that down gently, and then taking a self-propelling pencil, we're just going to draw the lines in, like so. So we're going to get this masked up, and we'll get the colour starting to go down on this wing, and then we'll come back and we'll see what the finished results look like. So there we go, that's the first wing now completed. We've just got the rest of the airframe to do. So join me back in a bit and I'll show you the finished result. Well, after quite a few hours in the spray bay, the Kinetic Pucara's Camouflage Pattern is now completed. So that's the basic paint colours laid down. So we've got those lovely blue undersides and the overall disruptive upper surfaces. So quite a bit of work there. So that's just the basic camouflage application. So there's still the weathering process to take into account. But the next job on the list is to add the yellow overwing and underwing identification stripes, and the stripes also in yellow to the sides of the vertical tail. So the Pucara has yellow identification bands painted on the wings, the upper surface of the wings and the lower surface of the wings, and the vertical sides of the tail. So these need to be masked off on the model and applied. So we've already done that. We've marked out the positions using our enlarged photocopy, and just for ease I've just pencil lined those in, and using a scale ruler from Scale Aircraft Modelling, these were measured, the exact positions, and then transferred onto the model. Masked off with Tamiya masking tape, and as the model surface is gloss coated, this is going to be rubbed down and burnished down quite strongly to form a paint seal so that we don't get any creep. I've not worked underneath, I'm just going to apply each surface at a time, and that way we can make sure everything lines up and nothing runs out of alignment and we get wonky lines. So I've got to apply it to this one, this side, and this can be checked because there's two panel lines running down the wing. So just doing a quick measurement. And then we're just going to trim this. Around, and we're just going to make sure that that is really pushed down. We want a paint tight seal. We don't want any bleed through. And we're just going to measure everything again. We just stuck it down to the wrong side of the pencil line. There we go. Remove those pencil lines. Yellow's notoriously difficult to spray, so we don't want the pencil lines showing through. It's not like we can cover it up like we did with the camouflage. Just masking off the rest of the area of the wing. I think I'll just run out of Tamiya tape. Just enough there to mask off that section. As the ailerons weren't painted. Now, as any modeller will know, yellow is a difficult colour to spray, so we're going to lay down a white primer for this one. So we're just using AK's white primer. I'm just going to build it up to lay a good foundation. Just remember to try and spray away from the masking tape. Don't forget your leading edges. And we'll repeat it on the port side. There we go. We'll just give that a minute to dry off. So we've just used AK Interactive's white primer for that. I'm just going to clean the airbrush out. So for the actual yellow stripes, we're going to be using Guns H329 Insignia Yellow FS 13538, and we're just going to lay this down in thin coats, just building the colour up. Like so. A little bit thick, just needs that little thinners in there. Don't forget your leading edges, because you're going to wrap this round into the surface, and that's that side done. And we're just going to repeat that on the other side. Any ridge of paint that's built up along the masking tape can be removed and flattened down by polishing with micromesh once the paint is completely dry. So I'll probably leave that overnight. So this has been allowed to dry now for probably an hour or so. And we'll just start removing the masking tape. To hopefully reveal our very nice yellow identification bands. So when we're moving the masking tape here, we're just going to pull it away from the paint edge. So I'm just going to do that from the leading edge, I think. So I'm just going to pull it away. So again, just pulling that masking tape away from the edge of the paint. And we have a very slight raised edge that will micromesh out. So the yellow ID bands have been painted now in all 6 positions on the Pucara, on the upper surface of the wings, the lower surface of the wings, and each side of the vertical tail. Painted the tops of the instrument combing black, and I've also glued and attached the front instrument panel and combing to the model. We have amassed quite a box of bits at the moment, so we've masked up the canopies front and rear. We've painted the flaps to match the camouflage pattern in their waiting assembly. We've had a look at what the propellers assembly looks like, and we've done other bits and pieces like that. But that's all to come in part 5. So until then, please look after yourselves, take care and stay well.